Hello and welcome to Frankfurt, Germany. Yeah, you probably recognize that one, but you probably have noticed that I'm kind of focusing in on the other side of the airport. Of course, this is a new terminal that they're working on, but if we come over here, we're going to see an old airplane over here. Whoa. Yeah, we're talking about the DC-6 here. This is the PMDG DC-6. Now, in November, we're going to get a C-47 or a DC-3, but for today's flight, we're going to use a DC-6. They didn't really use this one. They used some other ones. And hello there. My name is Dave. I do the Spy Flight over on Twitch, and I've been really kind of excited about doing this video for a while now. A couple of years ago, Frankfurt, Germany did a really good event, and I think it was the 70th anniversary of the Berlin Airlift. And it was mostly over on X-Plane at the time, where you had the military version of the DC-4, which I think was C-57. I don't remember all of my C numbers, but I do know it was the C-47, the Dakotas, or what civilians would call the DC-3. Sometimes I get the my C numbers messed up there just a bit, but it was a really memorable event. The Berlin Airlift was really an amazing aviation achievement. So this has always been a fun route for me to fly. Thing is, in Microsoft Flight Simulator, a lot of the really old navigation aids aren't available anymore. They've been retired, moved out, and over in Berlin, the Tempelhof VOR has been closed down, and in fact, even Tegel, that airport has been closed down too. But you can still fly the route of the original airlift. So one of the things that I went and did is I took that original route here, and you can see on the far right column names like Darmstadt and Aschaffenburg and Braunschweig. I hope I said that one right. Those were some of the original non-directional beacons that they used back for the airlift. Now, there are airports that are really close, Navaids, I mean, that are really close by. So instead of using a non-existent, non-directional beacon for Darmstadt, there is another one that you can use. And let me show you over here on this map. So you probably recognize Navigraph. If we kind of come on in here, there's the town of Darmstadt. And if we look down here, well, wow, we've got we've got a VOR. So this one's the Reed VOR that we could use. If you look over here, there was another non-directional beacon they used to get out of Frankfurt and get into the air corridor that they could use. And it was Aschaffenburg. Well, that one's gone too, but we've got the Charlie VOR, and it's relatively close by. So we can use that. And so this one gets us up here to this spot right here. And this spot right here is the Fulda VOR, and Fulda was actually in place in 1948. So they used this one as part of, and this was actually the gateway to the corridor. There were several corridors that you could fly in to get into Berlin at the time. Now, coming in here, of course, we do have the new airport, Berlin-Brandenburg over here. That's the big one. And if we look up here a little bit north, well, there's Tegel up there. If you go between Brandenburg and Tegel, right around here, there's this big spot in the middle of Berlin, and that is Tempelhof. So our little flight plan that we're going to try and do today, once we get into Berlin, we'll kind of go towards Brandenburg, and then we can use the Tegel VOR, which is still in place, and that's going to basically get us set up for our landing into Tempelhof. So it's a little bit convoluted, but it does work really well, and we're flying virtually the same route that they were flying. So today's flight today is Frankfurt EDDF to Tempelhof. That's EDDI. You will need some freeware available over at flightsim.to to be able to fly this. There's a couple of sceneries, and I'll be telling you about that. And links, of course, are in the description to be able to fly and land at Tempelhof. Our call sign today is Big Easy 441. Big because our aircraft is greater than 20 tons. Easy because our flight route is east into Berlin. We would be Big Willie if we were west heading back over to Frankfurt. Our actual flight number, though, is BAL, Berlin Airlift, and of course I'm sticking with 441 as I always do. Add-ons, Navigraph, SimToolkit Pro, planning charts, and data is what I'm using. I also made some pretty good use of SkyVector, and in fact it was SkyVector that I used to go and do the entire to do this flight planning. This is where I was able to find those VORs that I could replace the old non-directional beacons. So this is the flight plan. And by the way, my flight plan is currently in the description. You can copy and paste that into Notepad, and it should work out for you real well. So what can you do with all of this? Well, you can fly along. You will need to go and get the freeware Berlin Tempelhof scenery. There's actually 2 you'll need, links in the description, and then fire up Microsoft Flight Simulator and fly the route with me. We're following the 1948 flight plan using current Navaids. I'm flying in the PMDG DC-6A. That was the original one that was, kind of half cargo, half passenger, or all cargo. So we're using that. So you'll need that airplane. If you don't have that airplane, just go and grab something as a propeller that'll move along about 200 knots. You could fly the default TBM with me if you don't have the PMDG, but fly along. One of the cool things about videos here on YouTube is you can pause and restart. Really like to suggest that you do that. And I've got some history for you along the way too, because this is actually a really interesting time in history. It's sort of the first years of what we ended up calling the Cold War. So it's definitely an interesting time in history, especially with the way the world is today. So there you go. Let's go and get in the airplane and get this thing going. Now, these old things do not fly like the Airbus or the Boeing, okay? This is an old prop liner. As we crawl into the cockpit here, you're going to take a look at all of these gauges, and then you're going to look up here and say, oh, no, no, there's just too much up there. This is a really, really well-done aircraft by PMDG. I think they've done a wonderful job with the airplane, and don't worry, there's a couple of tricks that we can use to make this a little bit easier on ourselves. One of the things is I have turned off the GPS stuff, and I'm just using VOR to VOR and NDB to NDB. I'm not making any judgments here, but an old prop liner like this, GPS, that's a little bit like, well, kind of cheating. Maybe. Anyway, so that's why I turned those off. You can leave those on if that works well for you. I do have some standard views here that I set up. These are basically Microsoft Flight Simulator's version of quick views. And having these set up and having them fairly standard. The airplane does have an autopilot. Technically, it's not really an autopilot. It's a gyro pilot. And this is going to be our secret weapon right here. We're going to be using the AFE, Automated Flight Engineer, to help us out. But you don't have to use that if you know this airplane. All I'm going to do is I'm going to put in wheel chocks. You could open up the doors and windows if you want. And let's not worry about that. Let's go to the ramp manager now. No, let's go to fuel and payload. There is, you can use SimBrief. You can also use SimToolkit Pro and SimBrief to create a flight plan. I've done that. And to do today's flight, I need 7,317 pounds of fuel. We've got 16,000 pounds in here. I'm going to go ahead and let's add in, let's see if I can do this. There is 1,000. There's 2,000. I'm going to go to 10. Let's just go to 10,000 or so. So there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and almost there's 7. That's what we need. I'm going to go, and just to be safe, I'm going to go to 10. That should get us to Tempelhof. As far as cargo, you can just set it up to do cargo. My zero fuel weight for this is going to be... let's see. Okay, this says cargo over here. I need to kick up the cargo up to... Okay, there's 23,000. This one was supposed to be 56. Okay. Oh, I wonder if please tell me I didn't do this in all in kgs. Sometimes I've been known to do that. Sorry. Here's a moment that I should probably edit out. Let's just go to SimBrief real fast and see if I'm an idiot. My flight plan. No, I'm at pounds. Okay. That doesn't make sense to me. I think I've messed this up. Let's just go ahead and drop the lower cargo down. And we're going to go out with main cargo of 23,000. Let's just do that. That should work. Oh, wait a minute. This is gross weight. Okay, my gross weight is 86. I'm supposed to be at 56. So there we go. Okay, yeah, it's gross weight. This old thing didn't use, I don't think that they used zero fuel weight. So we can go ahead and bring this down to, what was it? It was 56. 56,731. So how are we doing here? Oh. Okay, there is 85. Oh, I moved my mouse over. So the way to do this here is if you want to go down by like 100 pounds of fuel, use your pointer over on the little up and down arrows here. And if you want to just zero it out, move your pointer over the central number. I think that there are also some ways that maybe you can just directly type this in, but I've tried several times and I can't do it. So we'll just continue to crank this number down. 7. You know what? My number is supposed to be what? 56? We're going to go 66. Almost there. Sorry to make you wait on this one. We're almost there. There's 69. You know what? That's our load. They shoved a couple extra shovelfuls of coal. And so now the airplane is essentially ready to go. You can go and drop that number down even more if you want. Let's go and do the AFE. This is going to be our secret weapon to be able to fly this flight today. So before start, and look up here. They're going to start turning on, flipping on all your switches for you. There goes the batteries, the position lights. They just turned on the beacon. So all of these things are going on. So
completed.
All right, so now they're going to test a few other things.
Oil coolers and cow flaps. Auto in position. Fuel and fluids. Checked. Pressurization. Set. Manifold and duct pressure. Checked. Radios.
Sorry about allergies.
Checked. Doors and hatches.
$6,000 is going to be our cruising altitude here. And are we almost ready to start?
Closed. Door warning lights.
I think those are up here.
Gear pins. Removed. 3 on board.
I think the gear pins are back here. There's the flight engineer seat. You can click that down if you want.
Set to idle. Propellers. Forward and 3.
Almost done.
Before start checks complete. Start engines.
Okay, so now we're ready for start. To start the engines on this airplane, and these are things that you have to do. The flight engineer won't do it. But the flight engineer has already, here's our mixture controls down here, and engine number 3, the mixture, is already been turned up for us today. So all we got to do is start engine number 3. That's going to be this one over here. So it's this propeller right here that's going to start spinning around. And to do that, you go to the upper panel, and they've already turned on the ignition. The starter selector is over on number 3, and the fuel boost pump has been turned on. So all you do is hit the start button up here. You'll hear the flight engineer start counting. At 6, we're going to prime it, and at 9, we're going to boost it, and that should start. Ready? Yeah, let's start the engine. Starting.
3, 6, 9,
Prime.
12.
Boost. We've got an engine. And there it goes. This is actually a really, really nicely modeled airplane. If you look very carefully, let's see. If you look really carefully, you can see the engine is actually vibrating. So look over here at the number 4 engine. See how the Pratt & Whitney logo is stationary? Now look through the propeller over here and you see how it's rattling? Another thing, look at the control panel here. See how the control panel is rattling around too? That's the way these airplanes were. There was a lot of rattling and rolling. Let's start up engine number 4. First thing to do, come down here and mixture. So 2 clicks, mixture is now rich. We need to come up here and turn the ignition to both. We need to do the starter selector to number 4. We need to do the engine boost pumps to on. And let's go ahead and start it. Listen for the count.
3, 6, 9,
Prime it.
12.
Boost it. And there goes another engine. We need to start some more engines. Now, I always forget this one. So I usually go ahead and start number 3 after this. I might be wrong. It depends. So, but we're going to go with number 2, I mean. So ignition to both. Starter selector to engine 2. Booster, start.
3, 6, 9,
Prime,
12.
boost. And we got another one going. One more engine, and then we're almost ready to go here. So let's go down here, and let's go ahead, and here comes the mixture. Let's go and look at these a little bit closer here. So here we are. This is the ignition. So like the magnetos, left, right, both. So there that goes to both. Now let's come up here. We need to do the engine selector to 1. This is the main fuel booster pumps. Goes to low. And now these are the, here's a closer view of these switches. So starter. Starting.
3, 6, 9, 12.
And there we go. And that's how those work. All right, all of those are pretty good. Now that our engines are going, kind of wait here until all the switches pop off. Come on, there goes that one. Wait for the last one. Okay, now at that point, we can go back to the flight engineer and do after start flows.
Selected boost pumps.
You can go and get a really nice checklist for this airplane. I have downloaded it. I just need to go and study it a little bit more. While we're waiting, let's go over here and let's go to one of my favorite websites.
Checked and on.
And this is the Frankfurt weather. And right now the altimeter is 1022.
After start checks complete.
So let's set the altimeter 10. Oops, turning it the other way. 1022. There's 102. That's about 1022. See, it's bouncing all over the place. Now, remember our flight plan over here. Our first waypoint is direct to the read VOR 112.2. So let's go up to our radios and let's go 112.2. And we're going to make that one active. Okay, we're also going to go, and I'm going to go 112.2 over here, just so that I've got all sorts of things pointing at it. The next one is the Charlie VOR 11535. I'm presetting this. So 115.35 and 115.35. All right, so all that looks good. We're going to basically turn to the south. So looking over at our airport chart, we're taking off here on runway 25 left. So 25 left at Mike 7, we'll take off and we're gonna head south and look for the VOR. Now we can't pick it up right now here on the ground, but this is pretty good. So at this point, we are now ready to go. So what do we have over here? We have before takeoff. We don't have to worry about that. It's taxi time. The controls that I have set up, I haven't set these up really good, but I do have a single throttle to control all of my engines. You can see them moving there. I also have got a button set there. You see that little red lever that went down? That is my prop reversers. So that's set and ready to go too. And now we're ready to go. So we're going to look down here. Parking brake is off. My toe brakes are on because I want to look up before I start rolling. Let's try the experiment with the prop reverser. Let's see if we can push ourselves back. There we go. And now we're going to go and add some power. And let's just look and see if we've started moving. Hey, look at that. We're going backwards. Look, Mom, we're backing up. One of the things about backing up airplanes and stuff, you really, wow, it's loud out here. You really don't want to, go too fast with these things, because when you want to stop, you're going to put your brakes on, and all of a sudden it's going to go, you'll stand the airplane on the tail. It becomes very uncomfortable. Now, I'm probably going a little slower than I should. Call me a chicken, but there you go. That's probably good. So, props down, and we coast to a stop, toe brakes on. Let's go ahead. Props going forward now. We're going to make a right turn out. And again, we're going to turn out here, go out of this parking area, and go to Mike 7 and take off. Then south turn. We're going to come out of this parking area at Sierra 7. During the big VATSIM Germany event, this was the area where you would have been staging. They staged all the airplanes over here for the airlift event. That's going to obviously change a little bit, especially as the new terminal comes online. Okay, coming on out here, we've got before takeoff, and then there's dry and wet departures. Dry and wet refers to, are you really heavy? You're going to need a little more power for takeoff, so it's a wet takeoff. Dry is we're not as heavy. I almost always do a dry takeoff on this one because I don't think I'm ever fully loaded, except if there's, a adult beverage in the cockpit, but we're not going to talk about that today. So we're coming up on Mike 7 here. Let's go ahead and run that checklist before takeoff.
Boost pumps. Boost pumps on low. Fuel selector and crossfeed. Main tanks and crossfeed off. Autopilot and carb heat. Hydraulic system. Down, forward, pressure and quantity checked. Okay. Flaps 20.
There's our flaps going to 20. Do you hear the squeaking? One of the things that PMDG did with this airplane, let's do it again. If you turn on the brakes, they squeak.
Gust lock released. Free.
There goes the gust lock. Push your control forward, backward, right, left,
Mixture and cowl flaps.
rudders. Good to go.
Set. Transponder. On. Landing lights.
Let's go on, line up and wait.
Before takeoff checks complete.
All right, we are ready to go. Again, taking off to the south as soon as we take off. Our first VOR that we're going to be looking for should come alive. Let's also verify 112.2. 112.2. So south turn and then direct to that VOR. After that, we make a turn to 064 degrees, and that's Charlie. And a nice little lineup here. And squeaky brakes. Everything looks good. Dry takeoff.
30 inches stabilize. 30 inches stabilize.
So there goes your throttle. Take your throttles, if you have throttles in your cockpit, and move them up. I usually move them up about half. And then leave them alone until it's time for landing.
30 inches stabilized. Cowl flaps. Cowl flaps. Cowl flaps set.
Set.
Full power, please.
Okay, not touching the throttle. The engineer's taking care of it for us. Toe brakes are still on. See the throttle's moving forward. Manifold pressure on both engines going up. There's full power.
Full power set.
All right, there's our little airplane. Brakes released. Make sure we're going center down the runway. It is up, and away time. Steering with rudder pedals now. There's the wide arc. Let's get a little more speed because we're a heavy airplane. Start pulling the nose up. And look at that, up we go. Up, and away. There goes our landing gear. Flight engineer does that for us too. Okay, there we go. And look at that. Let's turn south. The VOR is alive. You can see that down there. Let's go straight to it. Okay, this is not a jet. So obviously one of the things to do is not rock and roll it around.
Flaps up. Flaps going up.
We're also not going to climb like a rocket either. We're very heavily loaded, carrying food and coal and everything else. We are 14 miles away from Charlie. Our next heading is going to be 064. So let's go ahead and I'm going to preset 064. There's 064. Continue a nice gentle climb. We're going to 6,000 feet for this flight. Okay, you hear the engines going down a little bit here. So maybe a couple of taps on the trim wheel. Climbing about 700.
Climb power. Setting climb power.
Little bit of a gentle turn to go straight to our VOR. And there we are, 12 miles away. So this is how fast our little flight is, the departure. And again, we're going right over what was the old Darmstadt non-directional beacon. Let's go ahead and start getting ready to engage the gyro pilot. So gyro pilot on and put the lever into gear. Gyro pilot is controlling us. Now we're climbing way too fast. So I'm going to go and use this knob to push the nose down a little bit here. I like to climb this thing right around 700-800 feet a minute at the most. Okay, we're 9 miles away. The DME is down here. This thing is going to move around a little bit more. And 8 miles away. Still climbing. We're going to 6,000 feet on this one. There is all sorts of really, really great navigation information that you can get for the Berlin Airlift. There's all sorts of cool stuff that you can find online. 7 miles to go. Still climbing a little bit hot, fast and heavy here. We got our airspeed up too, so that's the other thing. Airspeed was important on this. Everybody had to be going the same speed. 6 miles to go. I generally start my turn about 3 to 4 miles away from the VOR, so I can make it a gentle turn, a gradual turn. Again, we're a heavy cargo plane. We're not a fighter jet, or even, you know, an Airbus or a Boeing. So how are we doing on all this? Well, look at this. There's a great way to track. And there we go. So there's Darmstadt. This is where they would have made the turn to go over to Aschaffenburg. And I hope I'm not Americanizing these German names too much. Okay, there's 3 miles. Let's go ahead. Let's start our turn to the right. Our turn to the left, my other right. So now what I want to do is I want to turn over here until we're heading 064 degrees. So gentle turn 064, 2 miles away. Now let's go over here, and I'm gonna go and shift my nav 2 to the Charlie VOR. So over there, and look at that. There we go. That's pointed to Charlie. And look at that, Charlie's right where it's supposed to be. May have to do make my turn a little bit more than just this. Okay, now you can see the other one, so we're going past there. Let's go ahead and set Charlie. Here comes Charlie. 1153. Here we go to Charlie. And look at that, we're already on this right now. So probably ought to turn a little faster. And we're right where we're supposed to be. After Charlie, it's Fulda, 112.1. So 112.1. Let's go ahead and activate Fulda. Fulda is already showing up. We're a little bit off to the side here, so I probably didn't turn fast enough, and we are 19 miles away from Charlie. Okay, we're going to the single here, but we're going to turn a little bit beyond, see if I can't get on my assigned radial. A little bit of position precision was important. Okay, that's probably good. Let's go down here and tap what I call it tapping the quarter up here. And that's what returns your right and left turn to center. The corridor that you could fly into Berlin during the East and West Berlin was only 20 miles wide. Now that seems like a big space, but if you're going at 210 knots like we are, you run out of that space awfully fast. So to be honest, you got, being where you're supposed to be is important because, there were people being very, very cranky with each other. 6,000 feet. And let's push the nose down a little bit. 6,000 feet and altitude hold. There we go. And this is coming over here. See how fast all this happens? To say that it was a tense time was for sure. Okay, now we're getting on our VOR, on our proper radial. We're 13 miles out. It's almost time to make another turn. Okay, that looks good. Now let's go and get this thing back on our heading. So right turn. And we're a little bit high right now. We're within 200 feet, but we're still a little high. A little bit high. That's the story of my life here in Flight Simulator Land. We're going to go over just a touch. Okay, tap the quarter. And that is actually pretty good. All right, our next heading. This is actually not so bad. And this thing's going to come back over. How about a little bit of a left turn? And we're going to get centered up here. Pointed right to this thing, 9 miles to go, and it's almost time to make another turn. Gently turning this thing, there we go, and quarter. We're at our final cruise. Let's get the cruise checklist going. That looks good. 8 miles to go. Our next heading to Fulda is 025 degrees. So 025's there. We're within 7 miles. Let's go to 025 over here. There is 03, there is 025. Okay, that looks good. And we're 6 miles, so maybe I should be going at about 4 miles or 5 miles from the VOR for my turn. So there's 5, little more than 5. We're picking up Fulda. How are we looking? Look at this, right where we're supposed to be. And there's the town of Aschaffenburg ahead of us. And if you look, it's sort of like, hey, hi, Aschaffenburg. I'm going to guess that the landscape was obviously very different from here. Okay, 4 miles. Let's start our turn to Fulda. Right turn, left turn, other left. So turn over, let's point at this. Let's flip the radios. There's Fulda. Coming on over to Fulda here. (1121). Did I screw that up? Please. 112.2. 112.1. There we go. I was gonna say that didn't look right to me. Okay, coming on over here. Let's stop the turn here. I think I turned a little too soon. Tap the quarter. We are 45 miles away from Fulda. So we actually get a few moments to kind of rest up a bit here. We could probably do, if we wanted to be good pilots, let's go over here and go 5-10 degrees to the right, and let's just be really good and center that thing up. So there's 5 degrees off. And that looks good. Okay, not bad. Tap the quarter, and let's see if that centers up a little bit. And we are right over Aschaffenburg now. And out we go. You can see that I'm a little bit on the high side right now. I'm gonna go ahead and just tap the B button, check the barometer. Yeah, we're about almost 200 feet too high. So what we could do is we could release altitude hold and tip the nose down maybe 2 or 3 clicks. Wow, that was a lot. And altitude hold. Man, that put us into a freaking dive. Okay, this is centering up. So center this up a little bit more and then we'll start a bit of a turn. But we're right where we're supposed to be, about 6,000 feet. They did have assigned altitudes going inbound and outbound. And they also had assigned speeds so that they wouldn't run into each other. Okay, we're nicely lined up here. So let's do a bit of a left turn and center this thing up and go directly to. Now, there's a little trick that we can use. We have 38 miles to go. So on this turn, we're gonna switch the mode and I'm gonna go, it says localizer. Don't confuse that. Oh, it's angry at me. It's angry at me. It's honked. It's annoyed. I'm a bad pilot. I switched the mode while we were in the turn. It doesn't like that. If we weren't turning and you just turned it to localizer, it would go and follow the beam for you. But I was in the turn at the time, so angry autopilot. Sorry. Now then, this is actually the run into Berlin from this point over to the town. This is the air corridor, 20 miles. So we really want to be pretty close to the beam on this one, but this is kind of a long way. This is 180 miles. That's a little bit longer than VOR's reach, so we're not going to be able to, after we pass Fulda, to pick up the the Berlin VOR. So what there is over here, there is a little town called Braunschweig, and I sometimes see it, but I don't see it all the time. It's basically, this was a halfway point. So there's halfway. So there is a VOR there called Heilingen, I think. And that is going to be a halfway VOR. So as we're tracking along here, and once we get a certain bearing from that VOR, we know we're halfway there, and we should be ready to start picking up our Berlin VOR. Oh yeah, okay. Let's start a bit of a climb here, because when the autopilot got upset with me, it turned off everything. So I need to start climbing. Excuse me, my gyro pilot. Or if you're in Greece, the Euro pilot maybe, but probably not. Okay, so we're tracking right to this VOR. We got 27 minutes where, you know, we don't have to worry. And let's get back up to our 6,000 feet. I don't mind a nice gentle climb here. Again, we're in cruise mode right now, so get up here to 6,000 feet, and then we'll go and get that other VOR. So we've gone and done direct to Reed. We went to Charlie. We're doing inbound to Fulda. Outbound, we turn to a heading of 051, and we'll go outbound or from Fulda on the VOR on the 051 degree radial. Our halfway checkpoint here is we pick up the 117.3, and when we are right on the 033, we know that we're halfway, and we should be able to start picking up the Brandenburg VOR at that point and continue on the heading of 051 degrees. And in all that, we're coming up on 6,000 feet, hit the B for barometer and altitude hold. And that should put us at 6,000 feet. And 22 miles away from Fulda. And there we go. This is a particularly good map for being a tourist. So let's see. We're coming up on a lot of towns that I don't want to butcher their name by Americanizing them. There is the town of Fulda right there. But there, I believe their airport and the VOR for Fulda is way out here. So it's an en route, there's its coordinates, its variation, its range. It's a 2,000 watt, so it's a good powerful VOR. You know what, let's go and see what's our VOR here at Berlin. What's the Brandenburg? I'm gonna guess, since it's Brandenburg, so that's the airport. Runways, comms. Let's see. Oh, I don't have it in the flight plan here. No wonder it's being cranky with me. So go to flights, edit. Export, edit. I didn't get that popped in here. That one I didn't copy into this flight plan here. So I'm going to have to go and figure out another way to find that. I'm going to guess that it's going to be a powerful VOR. 16 miles. Okay, as we get a little bit closer here, one of the things to do is to come down here and take it out of localizer mode, because we're going to want to make a turn. So we're going to go to gyro pilot again, and now it's just pointing it in the direction we told it to fly. And then after this, we're going to be making a turn to our next heading, which is 051. 051 is going to be right over here, so it's just a gentle turn to the right. And we're 10 miles away. We're just pointed straight to it. Let's go ahead and do 04051. And again, this is going to be a from reading. So both of these are going to flip the other way. And we'll make our turn in 4 miles. Aha, I was able to figure out how to do this. So let's add it to the route. Insert after Fulda, but let's look at the details. Yeah, a 2,000 watt VOR. So we should probably be able to pick this up very easily at this point. So cool. So Fulda should be the town off to the right. And how we doing? We are 7 miles. So we can look over there and come out there. And I'm going to guess that that's probably Fulda over there. And I think that this is going to be over an airport, so there should be maybe an airport ahead of us as we make the turn in, 2 or 3 miles. It's going to get loud. It is an absolutely nice day across Germany. It is, of course, hot, as it is all across Europe. I'm recording this in the summer. For the airlift, though, they flew through some notoriously bad, nasty weather. And obviously, we're doing it with some more slightly updated, Navaids here. But we're kind of flying the same way. So there were some times that they were flying along in some pretty soupy stuff. My guess is it was also probably pretty cold in this thing in the wintertime. This was a military airlift command airplane. And I'm sure that, while the military airlift command didn't want to freeze the pilots out, they probably didn't have the money, to make it really nice and cozy in the cockpit. So I guess it was probably pretty, turning to 051 degrees. Probably ought to turn a little bit sharper because I'm a little late on my turn. 1 mile from the VOR. There is 051, tap the quarter. Sometimes it's hard to get to. Okay, we overturned a little bit, but that's something I seem to do a lot of. Let's see how we do when we get about 5 miles away. So it's turning us back. I caught us at about 060. So a gentle turn, and let's just fine tune that to 051, and we'll see how we do coming out. And slowly making our way there. There's 055, and 0 out the turn. And once we get about 5-10 miles away, let's see if this thing swings over and see how much fine-tuning we have to do. Technically, now that we passed Fulda, we are in the Soviet air corridor. We have 20 miles on either side. We go 20 miles on either side commanding officers get angry, and fighter jets might scramble, and people get, you know, cranky. Let's go ahead and get ready for our halfway checkpoint. That's going to be the Highlander. Maybe that's quiet, G in there, but 117.3. And we're only going to do this over on this one. So 117.3, make it active. And so that's going to be the needle down here with the 2 lines. And what we want to do is when we start to pick this up, this is going to swing around here. And when it's pointed to about 330, that's the halfway point. We're 7 miles away. We kind of appear to be a little bit off to the side. Let's go and do a gentle turn to the left and see if we can't center ourselves up here a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's tap it and see if we make a little progress on centering this VOR. Get on that radial, because that was one of the mission critical things, is to stay in this spot. And not only because of the you know, you get angry you know, Soviet pilots with guns, but you would also, there were a ton of other airplanes that were flying with you on the airlift. We're just the only airplane in the sky here. They were taking airplanes off every 3 minutes, landing every 3 minutes, and on the busiest day, it was almost a landing every minute at Tempelhof. So it was a really, really big event with a lot of airplanes. Okay, this thing's starting to center up a little bit, which is good. So we're going to be watching for this. Basically, so we have to go about 180 miles. Because it's early in the morning and I haven't had enough coffee, 180 divided by 2 is 90. So when we start to get 90 miles away from the Fulda VOR, that's a good indicator to me that we should be seeing this thing pointing at 330 degrees. And we should also at that point start to pick up the Berlin VOR too. So this is looking relatively good at the moment. This thing is centering itself up slowly. And our nice flight of cargo continues. If you ever have the chance to visit Tucson, Arizona, there is a air museum there called the Pima Air Museum. And they have an airplane that flew in the Berlin Airlift. And one of the ways that they know that is obviously airplane history, but when the museum acquired the airplane, one of the things that they do is they take the airplane completely apart and they look for corrosion, they look for dirt, they look for oil or water or something, and they restore that so that it can sit and, you know, not rust out or something. As they were taking off the metal floor plates back in the cargo cabin, they started seeing grain and they started seeing coal dust. And those were things that they were carrying in the airlift into Germany. Grain, wheat for making bread. And they also trucked in coal, tons of coal each day to run the generators for electricity and heat. So the people at the museum say that they feel that they probably had a little bit of that coal dust in there. And so they said, yep, this one flew in the airlift. Okay, so we're slowly seeing this thing centered up here. We're 20 miles away. We're doing pretty good here. As soon as I see that we're centered up here, we'll look at some more of the numbers from this. It was 1948 to 1949. Almost a year of constant flight. Maybe it was more than a year. I've got the numbers. I've got them for you in just a second. We'll just give this a little bit more time to be right in the center there. As we're waiting for that, we can look over here and look, we're already, so there's Fulda, we're in the corridor. Another whole lot of towns that I just don't want to attempt to butcher the names or Americanize them. Nothing wrong with America, it's just Americanizing foreign names, I think, borders on being a little bit disrespectful. So we're sort of close on the line here, I think. And in fact, look at that. We're centered up. So let's go down here. And I think we need to make a right turn to get to 051 degrees. So again, just a couple little clicks there. There's 05. Boy, that's really close to 051. Now, we're not done fine-tuning this because we've got real-world weather and we've got the wind that's going to be blowing us a little bit too. So one of the things we need to figure out is keep an eye on this, and if this thing starts to waver, we're going to have to adjust because we don't want the wind to blow us out of our little 20-mile wide corridor. 28 miles away. Little airlift stuff for you. We're flying the DC-6A. So this was the airplane that was not used. This was after the DC-4. The C-57, I believe, was the military designation. This is a 105-foot long airplane. The wings were longer than the fuselage, which was kind of interesting. We could cruise up to 21,000 feet, but generally they ran the airlift from about 5,000 to 12,000. We could take off at a maximum weight of 107,000 pounds. Our range is a little bit interesting. So if you max out the payload, you cram stuff into every corner of the airplane, you could go 2,948 miles. If instead you balanced out the airplane and took stuff out of the plane but put in max fuel, you could go 4,317. Our flight today is about 275 miles. By the numbers, this ran from June 26th of 1948 to September 30th of 1949, so just a little bit over a year. The busiest day, they did 1,398 flights in 24 hours, and that was on April 15th and 16th of 1949. There was one landing almost every minute, which was their busiest day. The total flights were over 278,000, and they carried over 2 million tons of cargo into Berlin. Back in 1948, if you were going to the movies, the big movie you were going to see was Treasure of the Sierra Madre with Humphrey Bogart. There's a Jimmy Stewart movie called Call Northside 777, long before the Boeing 777, and then another film with Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall, Edward G. Robinson, Key Largo. You were listening to music by Dinah Shore, Nat King Cole, and Art Mooney. Were some of the biggest events, musical events that you were listening to. How are we doing here? Okay, it looks like you see this thing has moved just a little bit, so we're kind of a little bit off to the side. So let's go and do a little bit of a left turn. Just 2 clicks of this, and I'm going to go over here and. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and stop it there. Just a few degrees is all we need to do. And let's try and keep this thing centered up on the flight. We're 39 miles away. We've got to go to 90 miles for the halfway point. So everything is set up. If you're flying with me right now, you should have VOR1 set to 112.8. That is the full to VOR. You should have VOR number 2 set to 117.3. That is the Hailing VOR, and that's going to be one that we will pick up, and that's going to tell us that we've got to the halfway point. At that point, you're going to go and want to dial in the Brandenburg VOR, which is 114.1, but we basically continuing on the course of 051 degrees. As we start to get into Berlin, we'll also look for the Tegel VOR, and then we'll start visually looking for the airport. How are we doing on fuel? Well, let's see here. We have got 8,000 pounds of fuel. Remember, I boarded 10,000 pounds, and we needed 7,000 for a one-way flight. So we're good in terms of fuel. We're not going to run out of gas, which is a good thing to do too. Rather than make you listen to me yammer, we're at 44 miles away from the Fulda VOR. Oh, look at this. Look at, wow. Hey, there is our halfway point. VOR starting to show up. So when this thing is pointed to 330, there's our halfway point. And if we look over here, you can see we're still kind of off a little bit. So maybe let's go and do 2 clicks. And let's go and turn over maybe another 1 or 2 degrees. Because clearly the wind is blowing us a little bit here. So like I said, rather than make you sit and listen to me yammer away and all of that, what I'm going to do is hit pause on the video. You should hit pause too. And what you do is start the video up when your little pointer here is approaching 330 degrees. And we'll do a mid-flight check-in there. Hey there, welcome back. That is a loud airplane, isn't it? But these airplanes weren't meant to be quiet, were they? Hey, we are really close. We are 88 miles away from the Fulda VOR. So this is about the time we want to check in. I've only made 1 course adjustment, and I think I needed to go a little bit to the right. So just 2 clicks here on the gyro pilot. Let's do a little bit of a turn to the right there, just a couple of degrees. I'm looking at this little thing right here, and then tap the quarter, and that should center us up. Coming up on 90 miles, and the big thing is, let's see, so we're watching this one right here, and we're almost, let's go a little bit more. So there's 90 miles, and this thing is approaching the 033 degree radial on this one. So it's bearing 033 from us. So not bad, huh? I think that this is a good halfway point. So at this point, we know we're halfway. The next thing to do is come up here, and according to our flight plan, which is, where is that? Eek! It's gone. It's missing from the desktop. Fortunately, I know where to go and get it. The Berlin Airlift and 2022 flight plan. There we go. Okay, so according to the 2022 flight plan, I must have closed it. So the next thing for us to do is start looking for the Brandenburg VOR. And you might notice these are the old names, remember? This is the Navaid that this one replaces. So BBI is 114.1. So let's go ahead and dial 114.1, and this is nav2, make it active. Let's come down here and see, oh, look at that. We are got, no, we don't. See how it's flipped over to the other side? We don't have the Brandenburg VOR. So not quite there yet. It should be hopefully soon. Let's see. I'm just going to go and the Brandenburg VOR 114.1. I'm just checking my frequency. 114.1. Okay, so that's correct. We should be picking this thing up any minute now. Of course, it's going to not be any minute now, but really, you know. And we may actually even have a little bit of a dead zone here, too. So, but you can see Fulda is directly behind us, 90 miles out. We're as close to centered up as we can be. Now, the other thing that I could have done is I should have gone maybe and measured from the VOR. So, don't know how to do that over here. But over here, there is the Braunschweig VOR area. So there it is right there. And I could have got to figure out a way to do this, a measurement from this point here to there on this. Let's see, is there a key? I don't see a range key here, so I don't know how to do that. But that would be the next thing to do. I'll bet we could go and do that if I would had used something like Little Nav Map. And that would have given me a DME there. Oh, look what Did you see what happened while I was fixating over there? Did you see my two little needles here have flipped? So now it's the one with the double. So let's go up here, and we're going to go 114.1, 114.1. Flip the radio on nav, and let's see how we're doing. We're pointed right to it, and we were just hardly a degree off. How about that? Okay, I'm going to start thinking that I'm super stud pilot at the... No, I won't. But that's not bad. So let's get a little help from the system here. Let's go down here, and remember the little switch down here to go from gyro pilot to localizer? Let's go to localizer. It's probably going to make a bit of a turn here to get us right on our radial that we want to be on. But let's have it do a little bit of work for us. Now, the next thing for us to do is we're going to want the Teagle VOR, and that's 112.3. So 112.3. And I'll go ahead and make that active right now. And look at that, Teagle is alive too. So what we're going to want to do is to make all of this work out. Let's get this just a little bit wider. Okay, so to make all this work out, one of the things that I didn't do is let's go and do, that is TGL. So let's go and search for TGL. And we got to come, there is TGL. That is not showing up there, is it? There is, well, that isn't in my list. No filters, that should be a Navaid. And that one's not showing up in there. Let's go and look real fast. Let's switch this over to low en route and see if we've got it. So there's Schoenfeld. I don't see that it's showing up over here in this app. Okay. So there's a reason why this isn't seeing it. But maybe it's something that is showing up over here, because this is where I went and found this. So if we come into Berlin and zoom in, you can see that there is the Teagle Berlin VOR 112.3. Did I tune the radio correctly? Oh, I obviously did, because it's showing up in there, isn't it? Yeah. So it's just not in Navigraph. To get to Teagle, after we get to Berlin, to the Brandenburg VOR, we're going to turn to a heading of 332. So we're tracking directly to Berlin. There's, it's pointing to Teagle. So eventually we're going to go in kind of in between those two little pointers here. This is sort of one of the areas where we're going to have to make it up as we go. We are 64 miles out. We're really moving along here. So we're at 7,000 feet. Let's go and look at EDDB. We'll just use the Brandenburg. So the elevation of Berlin Brandenburg is 156 feet above sea level. I think our good traffic pattern altitude to get us started is 1,500 feet. So let's do the basic math. And this is jetliner map, but we're at 6,000 feet minus 1,500 times 3 divided by is only need 13 miles. So maybe when we get to be about 20 miles outside of the Brandenburg VOR, we'll start our descent down to 1,500 feet. We should also see what's going on with the weather. So EDDB is the closest we're going to find. There's Brandenburg. And right now the winds are... And I think that the old runways are 270, so we're clearly going to be landing to the west. We're going to have a crosswind. It's less than 6 knots. Not a bad day in the neighborhood. Altimeter is 1022. What are we currently showing here? we're pretty close to 1022, so I don't think we need to worry about that. Landing on the 27s is going to be good, so I think we're in relatively good shape here. Once again, skill and daring have overcome fear and anxiety. If you go over and get the showcase camera and dial this all the way down to barely moving, and you can grab your Xbox controller. And just go right through the door. And you can see all of our cargo that we're carrying. It's going to move up and down and stuff like this. There's a couple of little windows here you can look at. Hey, we have wooden pigeons. And there's the cockpit door. The cockpit door doesn't open on this. Now, if you come up here and look over here, you see that little thing right there? That is a window in the roof of the cockpit. So one of the things that you could do is you could go and do celestial navigation with this airplane. And in fact, another Twitch live streamer, Captain Fabio, who's a real-world pilot, by the way, took the DC-6 across the southern Atlantic and there's an application, I think you can get it at flightsim.to, and did full celestial navigation and got right across the Atlantic with it. So that's the way they used to do that long before we had satellites and GPS. 48 miles from Berlin. We're doing pretty good. We're going to go down to 1,500, about 20 miles out. The weather looks like it's going to be good. How about if I, instead of make you listen to me rattle on ridiculously, how about if we go and push the pause button? What you need to do is push the pause button on the YouTube video and wait till we get to about 20 miles out from Berlin VOR, okay? So when your DME is 20 miles, start the video, and we'll see what happens. And welcome back. Thank you for coming back with me. Hope you're enjoying the flight. We are now 20 miles out from the Berlin VOR, and we are still flying. How are we doing? Well, since we're using the localizer function here, we are right where we're supposed to be. We're right on the VOR. As you look over here, you can see there's the Teagle. So that's looking pretty good too. Outside the airplane, it's still a beautiful day in the neighborhood as we start to come in to Berlin. Over on our little tracking map, there's low en route. Let's go back to the world map. So there's Schoenfeld. As we zoom the map in, there is Tempelhof. There is the old Teagle. So we are coming in just like we're supposed to. So there we are here. We'll take a turn to the north, and that's going to be a heading of 332 degrees, and start looking for the airport. Okay, there's 16 miles. Remember, we wanted to go and start a descent to 1,500. To do that, I usually go and release altitude hold and click the little knob about 4 or 5 turns, and that starts our descent. Come on over here and hit the descent button. Artificial flight engineer is going to go to work. And again, we're going to go down to 1,500. We'll kind of buzz the new Berlin Brandenburg airport as we make our turn to the north.
Altimeters and flight instruments cross-checked.
See, we're already picking up Teagle, so that's good.
On.
Our altimeter, we've checked the weather. 1022, that's pretty good too.
Descent checks are complete.
All right, descent checks are complete. Everything looks good up there. The cargo is doing good. Remember a little bit ago we were showing the looking around? If you look in there, you can come back here into there. There is the celestial navigation port that we were looking on the outside. PMDG usually does not do a lot of modeling beyond the cockpit. There is a application, a small little file that you can download at flightsim.to for the PMDG 737 that extends the cockpit back into the cabin. That way you can set up a really nice wing view. I don't know how to adapt that for this airplane, but I think it'd be nice to be able to adapt that for this airplane. We're descending about 500 feet per minute. I'm going to go up 2 little clicks here. I'd much rather do a slower descent in this airplane. I'm much more about, slow and steady with this airplane. We are 8 miles away. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go off and just we're going to manage our own heading. And look at that. There is Berlin Brandenburg Airport right there. So there's the new airport. We're going to make our turn and head towards Tegel. After that, the heading is going to be 332. So we're 7 miles away. Let's dial this over now to 332. So there is 331, 332. Let's go ahead and flip this radio now to 112.3. 112.3. Okay, there we are. And now what we'll do is we wait until we get a little bit closer and we'll just make the turn. And we could go and switch the other radio back to 1141, and that's going to give us, if we flip the knob here, there we are. So 4.1, this is going to give our countdown till we get to the Berlin airport. You can see we're going right towards it. There's 3.6 miles. 3.4, let's do the turn at 3. How's our descent going? About 4,000. We could probably descend just a little bit faster, so maybe 1 click on the descent, and let's do our turn over to the heading of 332. And in fact, if you look over here, the pointer over here shows we're at like 340. So we're doing pretty good. And here comes the radial here too. Okay, let's go ahead and get this thing set up back over here. Sorry, zipping around too much. Let's go over and get this back over here. We're 14 miles, so 7 miles we should start to see the Berlin airport. We're coming down here. Let's go ahead and go down a little bit faster. Get the flight engineer doing in range. Start looking for an airport.
Fuel booster pumps.
There it is. There's the airport. Hello, Tempelhof.
On low.
Little on the high side right now.
Selectors. Mains on, crossfeed off. Hydraulic bypass valve. Down. No smoking signs.
Okay, just took control.
In-range checks complete.
In-range checks are complete. Before landing. See how fast this happened? And now I have control of the throttles. It's going to beep at me a little bit. We're going to do this visually. There's the airport. The runway is right there. So slow this thing down. We're still going down, but we also want to slow the plane down. Trimming the airplane up a bit. Coming up on 1,500 feet. I see the runway. Here comes wheels. Trimming up a little bit more. The scenery in Berlin is so cool to see this. There's the rivers. Let's turn on into the airport. Gentle turn, doesn't have to be a big one. Runway heading is 270. About. And we are about 10 miles, so yeah, the distance between the old Tegel and the new Brandenburg Airport is about 7 miles. Coming over the apartment blocks, we're coming in on the same runway where the famous picture of the C-57, the DC-4 came in with children standing on the hill as the candy bomber was coming in and dropping candy for the kids. Okay, we're getting a little low. Let's square this up a little bit. You can also do your own flaps a little bit more. This the flight engineer is only going to put it out to 20.
2400 RPM set. Cow flaps. Plus 3 degrees. Cow flaps set.
Hard to see, but there's the runway. If you decide to make your flight around sunrise or sunset, the scenery will get you really nice landing lights. Turning final.
Before landing checks complete.
Well, good, we're almost ready to land, aren't we? Adding another notch of flaps. You have to do at least two little clicks are going to will take care of you. There's our runway. It's a big old metal airplane. You're going to want to, pull your throttle back. Remember to keep your speed up for landing. The trees have grown up a little bit here. Remember, you can get freeware scenery at flightsim.to for this airport. Getting a little bit of wind here. We're a little crabby. You can see the windsock. Why? A little crabby. We got blown over a little more. Let's get back over here. Float, 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 float. There we go. Kick that nose around. Prop reversers. Brakes. Stow the reversers. Release the brakes. We did get blown around a little bit, didn't we? But look at that. We didn't scratch the paint after landing. And we're going to need a little bit of power to get to the terminal area. There, like I said, are some really, really great resources that you can, just Wikipedia on the Berlin Airlift is really interesting. One of the other things that you can do is there is a couple of YouTubes that are fairly good. I think that I was able to do, I found one good link that I included, and that's a short one, and that was a Mark Felton video over on YouTube about the airlift, which is pretty good. There was also a movie called The Big Lift, and I believe the copyrights have run out on it, so you could watch it for free over on YouTube. There was also a U.S. Air Force movie that they did on the airlift a ways back too. So I've included some of those links in the description below, but there's more to read. The statistics of this thing are absolutely amazing to me. So, and coming on in, the terminal that you can get, so there's two freeware sceneries for Tempelhof. It's not quite as good. There's a Tempelhof scenery that you can get in X-Plane that is a really good scenery for Tempelhof. I mean, you can even taxi your DC-6 into the little overhang here, like they did. There is an old Michael Caine spy movie, and it is called Funeral in Berlin. And that movie also has some old school Pan Am Tempelhof scenes. So you see the old terminal, you see the airplanes that pull in under the roof, and so, you know, passengers could go and, you know, get off the airplane and not get in the rain or something. So, and that was this area right here. That's not modeled over here, but you can go and that's another movie that you can look at. I think you have to probably go and buy that movie. And there we go. So here we are. Look down here. Parking brakes are on. Come over here, do parking with the flight engineer. And there goes all of our propellers. They'll turn off the lights. And then if you use something like Volanta or SimToolkit Pro, you can come over here. Look, it already did, my landing rate was a -142. It already logged the flight. But one of the things I did is I was able to go and look at this flight and see how my flight path, wow, that got quiet, how my flight path followed the actual flight plan. And these checkpoints really were very, very close to the original flight plan. So you can follow the original path of the Berlin Airlift. So I hope you enjoyed this. This was an awful lot of fun to research. And I certainly, they just turned off the lights. Let's see if they're going to retract the little landing lights in here. So right now they're hanging down. And these were those lights that popped in and out. That's how cool the animations are on this airplane. By the way, another thing, if you're flying the airplane at night and you're just starting the airplane up, go outside, you see flames shooting out of the exhaust here. So that's pretty cool. Thank you for flying along. I sure appreciate you coming along and doing the little adventure with me. Like I always like to say with these YouTube videos, this is not about the right way versus the wrong way. This is all about what it is that I found that works. And in this case, you know, adapting a flight plan from 1948 that you can use with Microsoft Flight Simulator and the current Navaids today and do this historic flight. I'm still really new here on YouTube, so leave your questions and comments. I read every one. And if you've got a suggestion for a flight you'd like to see me do here on YouTube or over on Twitch, you can do that. There's also a Discord server that you can go over and join, and that's where you can find out what flights we're going to be doing on Twitch. We do fly on Twitch every day, 1900 Zulu, Tuesday through Sunday, and certainly hope you'll join us for those. As I said, I'm a little bit new here on YouTube, so haven't got to that little checkmark stage yet here, but I'm starting to get close. So if you liked it, shares and likes are definitely appreciated. And if you really liked it, there is a button for Ko-fi. And I certainly want to thank, there's a few people that have hit the Ko-fi button, and thank you for doing that donation. Or you can just come on over in Twitch and subscribe to the live stream there. Most important, come on over to Twitch and fly along with us. I will look forward to seeing you again soon here on YouTube and even sooner on Twitch. As always, stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you again soon.